Hello, and welcome back to another episode of School of Self-Worth. I love being able to come on here and get into conversation with truly remarkable women. And you really don't want to miss this conversation with Jeannie Stith. Jeannie went from voiceover artist to founding a company that has reached people in 27 countries and counting. The Color Guru helps you analyze your hair, skin, and eye color to match your ideal color palette so you can feel confident and beautiful. Jeannie also digs into the moment she was unsure if the work she was doing was making an impact and then realizing it does. If you're a high achieving woman wondering how to feel strong and confident in your vision to follow a dream, this conversation is for you. Well, I am so excited to be here with Jeannie Stith, the CEO of The Color Guru. Hi, Jeannie.
Hi, Nicole. It's so good to be here.
So good to see you. So the last time Jeannie and I were hanging out, we were at a leadership training where we got to have a really nice long dinner and share stories about relationships and our companies and our businesses and our lives. And so I'm just so delighted to have you here on the School of Self-Worth.
Me too. I'm so excited to be here. I loved chatting with you, and I'm sure we're going to have a great conversation today.
For sure. So Jeannie, will you share with everyone a little bit? We're going to get into what your company does in terms of color, but I'd actually love if you would just share your own story a little bit about your journey to starting your company and where, just share a little bit about yourself. And then even where, as you're talking about your own journey, just where self-worth has come into play for you and how that affected you and your ability to start your company. And then what you actually even decided to do by launching the Color Guru.
Sure. So it's really started 15 years ago when I got introduced to color analysis, which is what we do at Color Guru. My aunt was like, you have to get your colors done. It's like life-changing. It's the best thing ever. And I was like, okay. I mean, I just didn't think much of it. And then we were looking for somebody who actually provided the service. And I live in the Philadelphia area, so major area, and we couldn't find anybody doing it. And so I was like, that's funny, because my aunt's like, this is so amazing, but like we couldn't find anybody. So then I guess it was like a year or so later, I stumbled upon a woman who was retired and doing it out of her home. And I went and had my first color analysis done. And I was like, that's interesting, and I started trying out the colors she gave me. And immediately I could see that I looked better in the colors she was giving me. And what I didn't expect was the bonuses that sort of came with that. So yes, I started to look better in what I was wearing, which felt really good, but also it was so nice to be able to go shopping and know exactly what to pick. And I love efficiency. I'm very much like, I want to make the things in my life that aren't, people that I care about, or, things I care a ton about. I want to make them efficient because I feel like we're short on time. And so shopping was one of the things I definitely wanted to be more efficient. And so that became more efficient. And then also my clothes all started to coordinate together because this color palette she gave me was a family of colors. So anyway, I saw the way this impacted my wardrobe big time, like my overstuffed closets and like overstuffed drawers became streamlined because now I had like some boundaries around what I was bringing into my closet, which was huge. I had never had boundaries. I was just an impulse shopper. I didn't even realize I was an impulse shopper because I think that nobody really teaches us how to shop for what's right for us. And so we're all kind of just flying blind out there. We're like, I guess I like this thing. And then 2 weeks later, we see it in our closet and we're like, I don't like it anymore. I don't know what's going on, So anyway, this idea of, starting a business that would sort of refresh this whole color analysis concept really stuck in my mind for years, actually. It kind of simmered in my mind. And I thought, man, it would be really fun to sort of refresh that whole concept and make it modern, make the color palettes modern, because the color palette she gave me was a bit dated and like some of the colors I couldn't even find in stores. But I saw the impact it was having not just on me, but my friends. Like my friends wanted the service too. So I took 7 of my friends to this woman who was doing it out of her house.
Yeah.
And I was like, how is it that nobody's offering this service? And like me and 7 of my friends all want it, So anyway, yeah, then that's kind of how it started. That was the inspiration for starting it. I saw what a difference it made in my own life. And then, I started to help my friends figure out their colors, and their friends heard and wanted their colors. And it just kind of grew organically from there.
So cool. I love that story around it because it would never have occurred to me to go get my colors done. And I will say, since I met you, and those of you who are watching on video, I'm wearing a bright color because I was like, I'm seeing Jeannie, like I should wear my color. Because then I definitely, since meeting you, I came home and I was like, I really do have a lot of black in my wardrobe. I have a lot of
Yep.
neutrals and creams, and I try to wear colorful earrings, but like the base is really, I was like, I should really get my colors done. And I'm curious for you. So I love this that you were inspired from your own experience. And then I know you were in voiceover before, right? That was the work you were doing then. And so could you share a little bit about that journey from being in voiceover to deciding to start your own business? Because that is like a big leap in terms of your own self-worth and saying, I feel confident in this. Like, did you have entrepreneurial tendencies? Like, how was it that you got in your own mind the confidence to say, okay, I'm really going to do this?
Yeah, well, I was always, even with voiceover work, I was a freelancer. So in some senses, I was running my own business. I was, doing my own marketing, like getting myself jobs and like, doing my own billing and things like that. So it was sort of like light entrepreneurship, right? But I did
Yeah.
have entrepreneur tendencies always. I ran an eBay business like right out of college where I would buy vintage clothes and sell them for a profit on eBay, like back when eBay first started, and I always kind of was finding these little side businesses to do fun stuff with. So what happened with voiceovers? I loved doing voiceovers for like a good 15 years. Right out of college, I started doing them. It was a great career. But then like the last, I did voiceovers for about 20 years. And then the last 5 years, I wasn't feeling challenged by it anymore. I felt like I was just doing it for the money. And I think that that's fine. But for me, I just really wanted a new challenge. And I wanted something that made me excited to get up and work on it every day. And I had started a couple little things that didn't really pan out in terms of businesses. And then this just stuck. Like it just had sticking power for me. Like I was really interested in doing it. And I think what's interesting to me when you ask about like the self-worth question, the biggest challenge was that I had a very strong voice in my head saying like, this isn't a big enough thing to do. And I don't mean big as in the size of the business, but I mean big as in like helping the world, right? It's like,
Yeah.
there was part of me that's like, are people just going to think this is superficial? And like, why should we care so much about what we wear? And like all this stuff, and I had some of those thoughts. And then, what happened was I just felt deeply compelled to do this. And then I found so much value. I knew it had provided real value in my life. And it wasn't like direct value, like clothes are such an important thing. It was the value of, well, I can now put outfits together so easily that I'm really happy with, which means I have an extra 20 minutes in the morning to spend doing a meditation or to spend having breakfast with my daughters, or like it was a real time saver. And then I started getting emails from people saying, this just made my week, like this getting my colors made me so happy. And like, I'm really enjoying shopping again. And I'm enjoying clothes again. Like clothes feel fun again, because now it's like a treasure hunt for my colors, and I just started to get this feedback that also gave me a lot of validation that this is a big enough thing to do. You know what I mean? And I also kind of came to the conclusion that even if it's just a delightful thing for people, it's a very fun business. Like it's colorful and it's fun and it's friendly. And we have a team that's really amazing. And I found a lot of value that I didn't expect in creating a team culture, like creating a place where people love to work, because we have a team of 10 people now. And it's like, even just that, I was like, I learned so much about what I consider value. Like value is not just saving the planet or like,
Mhm.
feeding starving people. Like there's so many ways to provide something really positive in the world. And so, yeah, I think I struggled with that though, because I felt like maybe this won't be enough, or maybe I'll be judged in some way. And at the end of the day, I had to say, no, this is enough. And this is what I have to offer, and so I'm going to offer it. So I felt like that's what comes up for me when you ask about self-worth.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, because I can feel that for so many of us, like regardless of the choice you're making, like, is this really enough? Like, I think that's such a question for women. We're always like, is this enough what I'm doing? Even if you had, and I hear it from women who have jobs at like, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, or they're working in things that you might perceive as, oh, really saving the world. And it's like, am I doing enough? And I think that is such a question for so many of us. And so I love how you resolved that for yourself. And I'm curious for you. Well, first, I'd say what I feel like I really get from your company is joy, because
Yeah.
the colors bring that. And joy is not something to be underrated in this world and this life, right? That we really all need that joy. And like, I definitely, when I put on like my bright yellow sweater or something that has color, like I definitely feel more joy, which I think is important anyway. And I'm curious for you, the journey of entrepreneurship also requires a lot of valuing yourself. And I'm curious if you would mind sharing a little bit more about like what you found for yourself and how did you keep doing it? Because some of the women listening are curious about that, are wanting to dabble in that idea of entrepreneurship, or just starting to do something on the side, or like having a side hustle. Like how many people these days are starting side hustles? And so what has that journey been like for you? To like, okay, I have the self-worth to start this company. People might judge me. I'm going to do it anyway. And then to grow a team and to build it as big as you have.
Yeah, well, a couple things come up for me. The first one is I think I was really clear on the lifestyle I wanted. And for me, starting my own business was the way to get there. I wanted time, freedom. And so I've grown the company slowly. I mean, I could have really hustled and worked like 12-hour days and like, worked on the weekends or whatever. And I didn't do any of that. Like I've just kind of taken the slow path. But that is because I do feel like I deserve to have the type of life that I want and the type of pace that I want. And it's not, for me personally, it's not being on someone else's schedule. It's being on my own schedule and being in control of my schedule. And for me, it is, growing at a pace that suits me. And so that has kind of been my guiding thing. Like when my girls get off school, like I pick them up at the bus at 4:00 and like my workday ends, period. Like I don't work in the evenings. I don't work on the weekends. I don't ask any of my team to work in the evenings and weekends unless it's an absolute emergency, of which we've maybe had 2 in 8 years,
Right.
So I really value that. And even like we take a team retreat and we're like, oh, wait, we run an online business where we sell packages 24 hours a day. Like we can't just stop delivering results. So how are we going to do this? I'd already kind of planned the retreat and then it occurred to me, I was like, we can't just stop taking orders. We just put a message up on our website and said like, we're on a team retreat. Your results are going to be, 2 to 3 days late. And people actually appreciate it, like that we value our time and that we sort of, aren't kind of constantly like working on someone else's schedule to like, always like hustling. You know what I mean? It's like that we intentionally take breaks. So I think that's what really comes up for me is that I had a really clear vision of what I wanted to achieve. And I did achieve that. And then still like, that is still a value that we have as a company.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that you were able to just see, you're like, oh, well, we can just take a break and tell everyone we're taking a break.
Yeah. We do the same thing at the holidays. We just put a thing on our website and we're like, we're spending time with our families and your results are going to be a little late. And we have had people email us and they're like, we love that you are just first of all, it reminds them we're real people with families. We're not just a business. Like, you know what I mean? We are real people with families and we've never had one complaint about it. It's just, because they know going in, right? Like they know their results will be a few days late before they purchase and like, So yeah, that's been really great.
That's awesome. Well, I love hearing that that's the way you're running your business, because I think it's important for us always to model that too. Like sometimes I'll do that too. I'll send an email. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be out for 2 weeks and you're not going to get an answer right away. And then people are just like, okay, that's fine. Right. Like it's not a big deal. So I love that you have embraced that as a culture for your team.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious then too. So then what do you find too? Like you were saying, people are starting to get results from it. And I'm curious for you, like the tie between now color and self-worth. And you probably, I don't know if you've been asked this particular question before, but that's what I'm curious about, like what you've noticed for people when they start to really recognize and understand what flatters them and what makes them feel good.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all noticed the difference between wearing like frumpy sweatpants and a baggy t-shirt and then the way we feel in like our favorite dress and like favorite shoes. You know what I mean? Like we feel different, period. We show up in the world differently. And I think that with color, what we see a lot of is people saying like, I'm kind of stuck in a rut. Like, and we all get stuck in ruts in like lots of different areas in our life, but a very common rut to get stuck in is sort of like wearing safe colors, neutrals all the time. There are some women who and men too, who genuinely love sort of wearing neutrals, and that's great. But a lot of people are very energized by wearing color. And some of those people are stuck in a rut of just kind of like grabbing safe colors all the time, gray and black and, white. And at the end of the day, they don't really feel good in their clothes, right? And so when we give them a palette of colors, often they feel like, we hear this all the time, it's like, it gives them permission to like try it. And it's like, they didn't need permission, but sometimes to get out of a rut, we need someone to give us guidance. And so they've got now this guidance that says like, these colors are really going to highlight your natural beauty. And then when they start trying them on, it's just kind of a delightful experience, because most of the time they can really see what a difference it makes. And we just hear people all the time that say like, I just kind of branched out and like, I feel like I'm discovering this world of color and I'm like loving it. And it's making me feel energized. And it's making me feel good. And it's making me feel confident when I leave the store, knowing that I bought something that's really a great choice for me, that I'll probably keep for a long time, and just we're eliminating a lot of that decision fatigue, right? Because there are just so many options when it comes to clothes. I mean, we just have endless options, and this kind of narrows the options, which, I don't know if you've ever read that book, The Paradox of Choice. Such a great book. So there's a great book called The Paradox of Choice that basically says when we're given 100 options, let's say like they use salad dressing as an example. If we're given 100 options of salad dressing, we are confused and usually way less happy with the one that we chose because there were so many options and we didn't really know which we wanted. And we're like, maybe number 57 would have been way better. And, and it's the same thing with like clothes. Like if you're given, and like with the salad dressing, if you're given like 3 options, you're pretty sure you picked the right one. Like, do you want the Italian? Do you want the Thousand Island? Or do you want the ranch? You know what I mean? And you're like, totally. Oh, well, I know that I like Thousand Island or whatever, and it's the same thing with clothes. It's sort of like this makes shopping much more intentional. And for most of us who've never been taught how to really pick anything for ourselves clothing wise, it's really like a relief. It's actually a relief. Like we hear people say like, oh, I don't want to, if I get my color palette, I'm afraid I'll be like restricted to those colors, but just the opposite happens. It's like, there's this freedom in the boundary, that we create. And we're like, oh, I'm only going to buy like my best colors, and my best colors are these on my color card. And then you're just like, oh, it's so easy to choose. And they look good. And now everything in my closet works together. It just like solves all these problems, and it's really lovely, and really helps people feel more confident and excited. So
thank you for saying that, because I feel like one of the stores I like is a place that always has like very limited color palettes. It's only like they're in a seasonal palette, and then there's just like a lot of options for shapes and sizes. And I like it a lot because of that. I'm like, okay, there's only
Yeah.
4 colors here, and I only get to pick from what they've got right now. Whereas the store is like, if I go to a department store or something, I'm like, oh my gosh. Or it's
I know.
like anything we buy these days, right? You like open up Amazon for the thing you want, and you're like, holy
Yeah.
crap. And then now I'm expected to read reviews. I was like, this is too
Oh, I know.
much.
I know. Well, I have to say, like, one of the things I really encourage people to do, and this really is linked to self-worth, because it takes some work up front, like most things that affect our self-worth do, but it pays off forever. And that is to get to know your colors, your best colors, and get to know your body shape and how to dress it in a way that makes you really happy, and get just dig in a little bit to like your personal style, like how you want to show up. Because really, you can just dressing is not hard. You can break it down into those three things. And if you can get a handle on those three things, you can know exactly what to buy. They have to fit those three criteria. Um, and the shape thing is a whole other one. I really resisted for a long time, sort of like that body shape stuff, because I felt like there was so much weird, like judgy stuff about it. But I have to say, once I learned like the styles of clothing that look great on my particular body shape, I started to really love my body shape instead of like wanting somebody else's. You know, I just learned what worked on it. And now I'm like, oh, I wouldn't trade it for anything because I know how to dress it. I'm no longer taking clothes into a fitting room that will never look good on me just simply because they are the wrong shape for my particular body. So a little work up front in those three areas, and you can really just master your closet very easily.
Yeah, and I feel like so many of the women listening, right? They're high achieving, they're ambitious women. It's like you said, they want to look good. I mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't want to, right? And it's just a matter of the effort and energy you're putting in. And a lot of times it just feels like too much effort. And so they don't want to do it, whether it's the shape of your clothes or the color or whatever it is. And all of us, myself included, have to think about it to some degree or another, right? Like
Yeah.
if I'm going to go on TV, I have to think about what I look like because it just
Yeah.
is better that way. It's funny. It reminded me of one suggestion my sister, who used to be in fashion, made to me once when I was looking for wedding dresses, is that she's like, look at all the shapes in your closet you already have, and then look for wedding dresses that are shapes you already own. And my wedding dress totally was exactly like a dress I already have, just a much fancier version of it, right? But it's so true, like what you're saying. It's like once you start to know what feels good or looks good on you, and then I was way more confident at my wedding because I was like, oh, well, I know this looks great on me. So boom,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
exactly. Once you get to know those shapes, you really have them forever. I mean, most people's bodies don't really change. Like our body shape is pretty much based on like our skeletal system, actually. Even if you like lose a lot of weight or gain a lot of weight, your basic shape generally doesn't change. And so it's information that you sort of learn one time and then use forever. Colors are the same. They don't often change. I mean, once in a while they do for certain people, if they're like, they let their hair go gray or something like that, it could potentially change their color palette. But most people, even through natural hair color changes, have the same color palette their whole lives. So it's kind of a one-time thing that pays off for years, really.
I love how you're saying that because it is really true. Then you can really also be timeless no matter what's happening in fashion and seasons that
Oh
you
yeah,
get to wear what
I
works for
am
you.
100%. I am very big on not following trends. I have a phrase: trends are not your friends.
Okay.
Because really, trends are created intentionally to make us buy more. Period.
Right.
They are created, they are manufactured, to make us spend money. And once you know what works on you, color, shape wise, and once you have some sense of your personal style and how you sort of want to show up, you don't need trends. You don't need wardrobe essentials lists, because your wardrobe essentials will be obvious based on your color, shape, and personal style. It's like every time I look at a wardrobe essentials list, I get so frustrated because I'm like, they say I should have a black blazer, but I don't wear black and I don't wear blazers. And they say I should have a white button down, and I'm curvy, and button downs always, I have not found one yet that doesn't like gap in between the buttons because I'm curvy, and it just doesn't work on me. Like, so create your own wardrobe essentials list.
I love that. I love that. And then what would you say too for, like there's so much more simplicity and ease. Could you speak a little bit to like the joy of color? Because I don't know if it's something there's like, I don't know if you know any science about it, but I feel like there must be something associated with like how we feel in relationship to color.
100%. And this has been studied for so long. In fact, an interesting thing about colors and how they affect us is like branding has been using it for years. And, businesses have been using it for years to make us feel a certain way. So, for example, this example sticks in my head. I think it's interesting. But like when we were kids, all the fast food places, if you would go inside, they were like oranges, reds, yellows, like they were like those sort of warm, intense colors. And it's because those colors make you want to, like, it makes it hard to relax, right? So
Oh.
they want you to come in, eat, and leave. They don't want you to sit around,
Oh.
you know?
Oh.
And that's like,
Yeah.
it's pretty unusual. I mean, sure, it happens, but like living rooms, more like, spaces that are a little more like places for relaxing are generally not painted those colors. You see a lot more grays and whites and creams and blues, which are more soothing colors and have that effect on you that make you want to kind of relax and like take a deep breath. And, so very interesting. And when you can dive into how colors affect us, but, it's really fun to start to learn that for yourself, like what colors really energize you when you put them on, or what colors, make you feel sort of dragged down, or, how do colors make you feel? But there are some generalizations, like yellow is a very happy color. Like yellow for most people causes like a happy, joyful feeling when they look at it. So yeah, it can affect us in a lot of ways. And in fact, on our color cards that we give to our customers, like we have some mood colors. So it's like how that color sort of feels, or if you want to show up at like, and projecting. So like we have a powerful color, this is like a strong, powerful color, or we have like a soothing color. And so that's been kind of fun to give to people as well.
Do people have tendencies around colors too that may not actually work with skin tone, or like have preferences around that? Like, does that make sense as a question? Because sometimes like my teacher will be like, Nicole, don't wear red, because like that's one of my go-to like strong colors. But it may not work for everybody, right? So is there like tendencies people have to like help them work? So like a color that works for them, even if it's not. Yeah, I don't know. Does that make sense as a question?
I think so. So I think here's what when you say that about red, for example, we'll just use you as an example. So the thing about learning which colors are best on you, it's really about like learning the exact shades that are best on you. So everybody has a shade of red that looks amazing on them, but it's not the same for everybody. And so there will be certain shades of red that really like light you up and sort of like highlight all of your natural beauty. Like that's one of the things about color analysis. Like our focus is highlighting you, not the color, right? And so there are certain shades of red that look like amazing on you. There are different shades that look amazing on me. There are very few shades that are kind of like, I don't even want to say off limits, because of course that's a personal choice, but there are some colors that we say like, these are not the best for you in any shade, but those are very few and far between. It's like there's a yellow for everyone, there's a red for everyone, there are blues for everyone. Most colors, there's at least one shade or several shades that look really, really good on you. But we do get people who sometimes feel like their color palette doesn't fit their personality. Like the most common one is sometimes people have very soft, very muted coloring, and they really look best in sort of softer, more muted colors, because bright, intense colors like you would wear very well, like saturated, like an intense like green or like a sapphire blue or something, will completely overwhelm them. And you end up looking at the color and not looking at them. And they have to adjust a little bit, because sometimes if they have a super outgoing personality, they're like, well, I want to show up in a room and be like, man, look at my color, And it's interesting to see kind of how they, some people obviously just keep wearing those colors, but some people really come around, like once they see how good they look in the softer colors, they're like, oh, this doesn't have to affect my personality any way. It's just sort of highlighting you can see my eye color because I'm not overwhelming it with something that's too powerful color wise.
You totally answered my question because I didn't know what it was until you said it, but it was that like sometimes we gravitate towards certain colors and we really like them. And I feel like sometimes I gravitate to saturated one because I know that it works well with my skin tone, right? Versus what actually looks best on you and highlights who you are. And that you said like there is a red for everyone, because that would make sense because what would work on me would not work on you, for example, right? We have very different skin tones.
Yes,
And
exactly.
coloring. Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
you answered my question. Okay, great.
I'm glad.
Yes. Well, and I love too, because I wonder if for people, once we start, if that also affects their confidence, once they're realizing, like, what's the feedback you get from people around once they're really starting to step into their shades?
Yeah, I mean, they love it. We get so many people who feel like they're coming home almost. Like it's almost like they knew, but they didn't know. You know what I mean? People mostly know, like consciously know like they come in knowing 2 or 3, maybe 4 of their best colors, and they're absolutely right. But then we give them a bunch of more shades that for whatever reason they've either never tried or like weren't sure about. And people tend to like their eyes are opened, and then it's so much fun because their confidence is really boosted mainly because they know now with certainty that these are things that are going to work for them and that look really good on them, and they can see the difference. I mean, we show them the difference in like we do color comparisons with their photos. And we deliver that to them, and then they can see it in the mirror. And so often we get like, I just can't believe how good I look, stuff like that. Like this one woman who she's actually featured on our website now. We have before and afters of her, and she's like, I feel so sparkly. She kept using the word sparkly, and I'm like, you look so sparkly. It's almost like her eyes came alive. She was wearing super muted colors, which are great on some people. Ain't nothing wrong with muted colors, but she looks best in like warm, bright, saturated colors. And man, like the difference was astounding.
That's so cool. Well, I have sort of a left field question for you. I know you have daughters. Do they allow you to help them with this as well in the way that you dress them? Or how do you like start to tell other people, like, let's use your family as an example, like, hey, this colors would actually look better on you. Do they listen to you on this, or they're kind of like, whatever, mom?
Well, they're 7 and 10. So they have some knowledge of it. They know their color type. But I'm not real, like, if they like something and it's not in their colors, I'm not real big on like forcing them to wear their colors all the time. Especially if it's like a hand-me-down. I'm like, that hand-me-down is just fine. But it is interesting. My younger daughter, who's 7 especially, she's really very, very visual and really has an eye for design big time. And she is already like tweaking her own clothes. Like she had this shirt with these long sleeves, and she took the sleeves up and tied them around her neck. It looked amazing. It looked like a halter top. Like it was like the coolest thing. But she will often like comment. She's like, oh, that color is like particularly good. And I'm like, yeah, it is. So I'm just trying to kind of like gradually get them, but I'm not too strong about it yet. They're just so little.
Yeah. I mean, is it with other people too? You're just sort of subtly, you're like, oh, that's a nice color on you. Like you just mention it when it works.
Yeah, I definitely mention it when it works. And I never give unsolicited color advice ever. But I do love seeing people in a color that's amazing on them and being like, yeah, wow, that is like totally highlighting your coloring, and your eyes are popping and your skin looks amazing. And it really is incredible when you see somebody in their perfect colors, what it can do for them.
That's so fun. I love like, when you first shared about your business, I was like, oh, it's just so fun. And again, I think that joy is really important in our lives. So I feel like what you're doing is so awesome. So I'm curious, I didn't really tell you this in advance, but if you have a tip you'd have for anybody who's like trying to boost their self-worth in any way, like what would you give them as a suggestion for something that they could start to practice or start to look at for themselves to help themselves with their self-worth in any way, whether it's color or in their lives or daily lives?
So The first thing that popped into my mind is actually food, which I've been kind of working on the last year. I've really sort of changed what I'm eating, and I think it is a self-worth thing. I've really tuned into how different foods make me feel. And I think that valuing how you feel is like pretty critical to self-worth. And so really being conscious of like, oh, like, for example, last week my daughters made brownies. They like love to bake. And I ate like 3 brownies and I felt so bad afterwards. Like my stomach was hurting, like it felt like a rock in my stomach. And I was just thinking, I want to mentally remember that didn't feel good. Like, and that I don't, I'm not saying I'll never do that again, but like, I don't want to do that again. I want to become more intentional, and slowly, 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 I am becoming more intentional about what I eat and eating a higher proportion of foods that feel really good when I eat them. And it's become really clear, like as you practice just that presence with your body and like what feels good, it's become really super clear what feels good and what doesn't. And so I think it's like a very slow journey for me, at least with food, but I think it is a journey of self-worth. And it's been really interesting to kind of discover that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so true that there's so many areas for all of us around self-worth. Like, I used to always think when I was younger, and like, oh, once you have self-worth, like you're just done. Like now you're done with it. Right.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older and wiser, I've understood that there's a journey for each place. And then once that journey, it's not ever really complete, but once that one door has closed, there's always a new one that will open for you for that next place. And so I love that you're sharing that. Like for you, it's been around food the last year. And you're like, and I think for all women, like body image and food is such a journey, and it's a lifelong one. It's not like we're ever completely healed, but we're always in a place where like, is this better? Can I be at a next level in this one?
Yeah, it's like for me, it's just been developing awareness, just like taking the time to actually develop the awareness and think about how I'm actually feeling in my body, and that's been really helpful and a very interesting journey for me.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
Are you ready for rapid fire questions?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. They're very easy, I promise. Okay, the first one. What was the last thing you watched on TV?
Oh, I watched a movie called The Worst Person in the World, and it was really good.
It was really good. Okay, good.
Really good.
I'm always taking advice when people tell me what they're watching.
Super good. The Worst Person in the World, so good.
Okay, awesome. All right. What is on your nightstand?
Oh, a candle is on my nightstand, a light, and a book.
Beautiful. Okay, and then when was the last time you tried something new, and what was it?
What have I tried new lately? Well, I took a Pilates class and I really liked it. So I have gone back a few times. That was probably the newest thing that I tried as far as activities. Cool. I loved it. You can lay down and exercise, which like is working for me. I gotta say, especially in the morning, I'm like, I go to exercise class and I lay down on the reformer.
And it's really hard.
It is hard.
It is really hard. Okay, awesome. I love that. Okay, and then what are the top 3 most used emojis on your phone?
Oh, I love like the shruggy. I don't know, like that one. I use that a lot. I use the one with hearts around the face. And usually probably like the red heart. I send that a lot.
Yes, I'm a big fan of the hearts emojis as well.
Yeah.
Well, Jeannie, it's been so fun to have you on. I love this topic. I feel like it's just such a good, rich topic for all of us. And so what is the best way for people to reach you and to find out more about Color Guru?
Oh, sure. We're really active on Instagram. So on Instagram, we're at Your Color Guru. And then our website is colorguru.com.
Yeah, and you can go there and get your colors done and get the whole assessment done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jeannie, it's been so much fun. I know I'm going to go. I was like, I have to go get one now. It's just, of course, get my colors done and know it. And it's just been, I feel like I love seeing women thrive and succeed in their businesses. And so thank you for coming on and like sharing so much about it. And then just being in my life. I love our connection. So thank you for being here on School of Self-Worth.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.